Welcome to the Unscripted podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Nicastro. I am on site this week at Field Service Palm Springs, 2025. It is, I don't know how many years I've been coming to this event, but it's been a lot. And it is an event I look forward to every year. It's always wonderful to be able to see some friendly faces and have an opportunity to reconnect with folks in person, and also meet some new people every year and hear new stories and uncover new insights. So it's an event that I look forward to every year. And as I often do, I thought it would be a good opportunity to share on the podcast some of my observations. So, my typical disclaimer is to say that I've been juggling just coming back from family holiday with being at an event this week, which means I'm catching up on work. I have not been able to clear my schedule, so I have certainly not attended every single session, and I'm sure I've missed some things, but I've done my best to attend as many sessions as possible and just get a sense for what's on service leaders' minds. And so I'm going to share with you all some of what has stood out to me, knowing that it's not a comprehensive overview, but rather the highlights of what I'm taking away and some of my reflections on this week's event. So, the opening keynote was done by Lori Battaglia, who is the CEO of Aligned at Work. Lori has spoken at this conference before, and so I know her and have spent some time with her. And her keynote was talking about how, in times of rapid change and disruption, leaders need to lead themselves first. So it was a conversation about the importance of, how leaders prioritize, how they tackle challenges, how they communicate, but first and foremost, how they take care of themselves, how they keep themselves in a good headspace, how they take care of themselves physically so that they can show up in the ways that they need to take care of their teams and their people. So I actually had the opportunity earlier today to sit down with Lori and record a podcast that will be coming out next week. So stay tuned for that, and you can hear a bit more about what she shared. Another session that I had an opportunity to listen to on day one was a panel talking about speed to value of technology investments. And many of the panelists were sharing that there's certainly an increase in expectation for the time to get return on investment or to hit a payback. And it seems like in many instances, the old norm would have been around 5 years, and that has changed to be around 2 years. And so to me, this makes sense. I mean, the capabilities of technology today are far different than they were, even a couple of years ago. And so there should be ways for organizations to, achieve value rather quickly, if not completely, meaning, if you break a project into different phases and you start to achieve gains, cost savings, et cetera, in one area, you can then work on the next. So it was an interesting conversation. The point that stood out to me most was a point that Craig Bruns of Crown Equipment made, which is that when we talk about today's technologies, so many organizations are focused on gaining efficiency, which is absolutely makes sense, right? And all of these technologies are very capable of helping companies do that. Increasingly so, right? In the era we're in with, expanded use of AI and in service, specifically looking at different remote capabilities, and how AI is really transforming service delivery. There is tremendous efficiency to be gained. Craig's point, which I think is a fantastic point, is that if you don't take the mindset of sharing some of that efficiency gain with your technicians, they will work against that impact. And so, he explained that if a technician is used to doing 4 jobs a day and you put in place a technology, in this case, they're leveraging IFS, that allows them to do 6 or 7 jobs a day. If you just consume as the business that increase and you don't share any of that value with them, they will find a way to work against that technological innovation. So his point is, you know, share that efficiency gain with a technician. So if on average your technician is doing, um, 5 more jobs per week or what have you, or able to, right? Have them do 4 more per week and give them the time of that last one back. Or if you equate that to hours, if they've gained 5 hours of efficiency a week, the company can absorb 3 of that and then give them 2 hours back, right? Share that benefit with them so that they feel invested in that technology use so that you're just prioritizing, the importance of your people and you're, sharing that benefit with them. So I thought that was a really good point. Sarah from Waters Corporation was also in that session, and she spoke about the change management model ADKAR, which, if you're not familiar, is the 5 phases: awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. And what she spoke about is how often it is that companies skip over awareness and desire and go right to knowledge by way of training and enablement. They focus on ability to make sure that that training enablement has been effective enough that they feel the employees know how to use what they're teaching them to use. And then they kind of abandon before they get to this point of reinforcement. And so I think there was a lot of content at this week's sessions that was related really to those 3 points that she said often get skipped. So the awareness, the desire, and the reinforcement. There's so many sessions here that have reinforced this idea of, really just the way people are wired, and to succeed in business today at the pace of change and, with everything that organizations are trying to do, there's no shortcut to understanding your people and understanding how to motivate them and how to make them feel empowered and make them feel a sense of ownership of, what it is you're aiming to do and make them feel appreciated. And those are all things that sound very simple to say, are far harder to do, and quite frankly, in the world of field service, have been ignored for a very long time. Sarah also did a session with a quant and talked about how they've introduced AI at Waters with this really cool thing that they did. If you're a Star Wars fan, I don't know Star Wars, so the concept of this made perfect sense to me, but like the specifics of it were a bit lost on me. But they created this holocron quest. So it was a scavenger hunt within the Aquant tool. And doing that really served multiple purposes. I mean, first of all, we were chatting this morning and she was saying that the person that she's working with on bringing AI more centrally into the business, is really enjoying the work of doing this and doing it in a creative way. So, it's a great having a scavenger hunt or this sort of activity is a great way to give your technical talent something fun to work on. But it was also a way to make it fun for all of the employees and to introduce it in a way that, created a cool buzz around it instead of just instilled the sense of frustration or agitation that often comes with such a significant change. The other point that Sarah made in doing it this way with the scavenger hunt is how it actually helped them train and teach their technicians how to use the solution so well, because they were inclined to do so for the purpose of the fun activity, but it also, allowed them to learn how to use the tool and even allowed Waters to learn some about how technicians were going to use it and, make some tweaks along the way. So I thought that was a really cool story of um, how companies are not only doing more with AI, but really getting creative in how they're doing it and, how really ingrained it is with the topic of not just change management, but really leadership and employee engagement. I had the honor of doing a session with Clinton from Tomra Recycling, who came all the way from Germany to join us at this week's event. And we shared a session on the importance of having a North Star vision as a service leader, what that is, and how to encourage your organization along the journey to achieving that big vision. And so, Clinton shared his own North Star, which for him is that Tomra Recycling will be 100% remote in service delivery by 2035. And then he spoke quite a bit about the different aspects of, as the leader of global service, getting other leaders within the organization on board with this vision, the importance of breaking down silos and working collaboratively with other functions. We spoke about how so many of these bigger areas of transformation are really business transformation, not service transformation. They affect every facet of a business, and so you can't do them in a vacuum. He spoke about the power of storytelling as it relates to communicating this change in service and its effect in other areas of the business. So, really evangelizing the service function and service innovation in a way that other leaders within their business understand. And then also the importance of storytelling in, bringing your employees along on the journey and ultimately bringing your customers along on the journey. We obviously spoke about the importance of having a strong digital foundation and being intentional about how you build upon that strong foundation with these more sophisticated capabilities. And so that was a great session. I also led a private lunch yesterday hosted by IFS, which ended up just being an hour of great conversation among a room full of great people, just talking about, how they're all working toward some of the different opportunities and challenges that are being discussed this week. So, how they're bringing new talent in, how they're working to capture and democratize knowledge among their workforce, how they're balancing the increased use of AI with the prioritization of their people and keeping a lens to, humanity and human connection. So that was a great opportunity. It just makes me really happy to see at the end of those conversations, everyone exchanging business cards and having, these follow-up chats around the room. And, that's the power of events like these is to come and connect with folks that, you might have a relationship with for the rest of your life. This morning, Fabio Raffone of Tetra Pak gave an excellent keynote presentation talking about how the company has shifted the perception among its field technicians to be less about simply going on site to solve problems and more about, they refer to it as this red carpet mentality. So the idea being they want their customers to be rolling out the red carpet when technicians are visiting. They want to be the most trusted partner that their customers have. They want to be adding value at every opportunity. And so, helping the technicians understand that that means that the job is more than fixing what's broken or preventing a breakage, but also, being great at communicating and, giving timely advice and being a strong representative of the brand and building those relationships. So Fabio talked also about how, as part of this shift, the company has done a great job at reducing technician turnover. I would say Tetra Pak's retention rates or tenure rates are very high compared to many, many organizations. So, I think what they were working on solving is a problem many would like to have. But nonetheless, they've taken steps to make a lot of improvements. And he talked about how, there's sort of three pillars that they're focusing on. The first is around the importance of purpose and ambition. The second is around development. And the third is a combination of recognition and work-life balance. What I really appreciated that Fabio said is, underscoring the importance of this idea of purpose, particularly with new talent coming into field service roles. There's this real desire to be a part of something. And Tetra Pak, as an organization, has a great mission, a great overall company purpose. And Fabio said, our purpose is that we are committed to protecting food, people, and the planet, not our own balance sheet. And I felt like that was such a powerful statement because it's something that companies and leaders really need to remember that if that is your only priority, you're going to have a really hard time succeeding in, having average tenures like what Tetra Pak has, and retaining good talent, and really achieving the impact that you want to achieve within your customer base and for your organization over the long term. So I really appreciated that he made that point, and he also expressed that as a leader, how you do that, how you maintain that right priority has to be genuine. He said if you fake it, it will fail, right? You can't do it in a way that isn't genuine. You really need to have people's best interests at heart. And as an organization, Tetra Pak really focuses on putting its employees first and trusts that in doing so, they will put the customers first, and that that will ultimately put the company in a good position. So that was a great session. One of the things that has stood out to me just overall at the conference is, AI has certainly been a huge topic of conversation. What is has been great to see is how embedded it's becoming into the broader conversations. And what I mean by that is last year, not only at this event, but at a lot of events, every session on the agenda was AI, AI, AI. Every session seemed to be only on that topic. And I had, multiple people comment to me, not just here, but at other field service events last year that, there's other things we need to be talking about, which is absolutely true. So I think what I've noticed this year is that it's still part of the conversation. It's becoming more embedded in the broader topics because companies are, I think, less concerned about what does it mean and what do we have to do with it. They've started to figure that out, certainly, at varying phases. But it's, becoming more understood. Certainly we're seeing, more use cases and companies starting to share successes and, what they're learning. But we're really weaving it into the conversations about, how do we improve performance? How do we change service delivery? How does that impact our overall value proposition to our customers? How do we create an empowered workforce? So rather than it be how can AI X or how will AI Y, right? It's those themes. And then as a part of those conversations, companies are talking about the impact that AI is having. So I appreciate seeing that, and I think that companies here have felt a bit more engaged in the content as a result, and being able to contextualize what AI will mean for the challenges and opportunities that the leaders here are facing, not having every conversation be centered just around the technology itself. Um, and with that, I think that going back to what I mentioned about Lori's initial keynote and even what Fabio shared in his keynote today, um, there just seems to be this overarching realization that when it comes to the people parts of what is driving a business to success, whether that's leader to employee or whether that's employee to customer, there's no shortcuts, right? So, going back to the point I made about Sarah's description of the pieces of ADKAR that companies typically skip or speed through, there seems to be this reconciliation that we just can't cut those corners. We're not going to achieve what we need to achieve at this phase in the game without digging in and understanding that it isn't just a quick program or a simple process that can wave a magic wand and bring people along on the journey. We really have to dig into, the culture we're creating, the types of leadership that is being delivered, what the mindset is within the organization and between leaders and teams. And, that's hard work, but it's work that can't be avoided. And I think there's, certain elements to that work about, you know, leaders preserving their own mental health and taking care of themselves. The idea of making employees feel appreciated and how do we do that and how do we do that well? The idea of really understanding what work-life balance looks like for teams and figuring out ways to improve upon them making that possible. All of these things are uh, things that haven't necessarily been discussed at this conference going back years. And it's good to hear them being discussed here because I don't think there's any way to do what we need to do collectively going forward without striking that balance. It's in many ways this balance between technology and automation and humanity. We have to be able to understand how to marry the two in a way that allows us to leverage the benefits, but also maintain, the special power of people. So there was a lot of conversation this week about, how leaders avoid burnout and how what are they doing to motivate their teams and, you know, how they make personal phone calls to their teams to express their gratitude, things like that, um, they might not be groundbreaking conceptually, but they are the things that have the most impact, and they're things that are a very important balance to an increasingly technology-driven future. So it's been a great week. I hope that synopsis is insightful, helpful, interesting to some of you. Another interesting bit is that next year, Field Service Palm Springs is moving to San Diego. I'm not sure what that will mean for the name, but that was a big headline of the event this week because it's been here in Palm Springs for quite a long time. I remember it being in Arizona way, way back, and I'm dating myself. But it's been at this venue for quite a long time. And so it's a big change for them to move it to San Diego. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. But as you are keeping an eye on WBR's events, just know that if you want to join in on the fun next year, it will be in San Diego. So with that being said, keep an eye out at futureoffieldservice.com for more information. As always, the podcast is published in partnership with IFS. You can learn more at ifs.com, and thank you for listening.